right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here after the Toyota Save Mart 350 at Sonoma Raceway. We're joined by our race-winning crew chief, Cliff Daniels, with a number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet. We will go straight to questions for Cliff. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and we'll get a wireless microphone to you. We'll start here in the middle with Jeff. Right there, Jeff.
I mean, for a while there, it kind of looked like Buescher not flipping the stages might actually work. I mean, we hadn't really seen an on-track pass all day for the lead, but you obviously were confident enough that it was going to still work. So how did you have that confidence?
I don't know that I was beyond confident that it was going to work. I just knew that when they had flipped what we were doing early in the race, it was going to put them in a position to have to pit early in the final fuel window. And from that point forward, no matter what, they're going to be on defense. So the only way to solve to beat that is we had to figure out how to be on offense. And our bed was made when they had all pitted off behind us, you know, all the cautions that we had in stage 1. We had to really commit to, at that point, we were a long car, so we just had to commit to the long side of things to have the offensive tires for the end of the race, if that makes sense. If we would have pivoted and given up that second run when, yeah, I guess it would have been the beginning of stage 3 when they all, you know, were early in the fuel window. If we would have pivoted and pitted early then, we would have come out right behind them on the same tires, you know, just not going anywhere. So we had to go long.
We're going to come up front here to Kevin.
Hey, Cliff. Hey, it seemed like the definitely all the cautions the whole race. It seemed like everybody was kind of thrown off on that end. But once Kyle got pitted and started coming down to chase everybody, it seemed like he really on turn 11 gained at least a second every time he went down there. Was that planned or anything, or that just let Kyle drive the car?
Yeah, like I just mentioned, we knew that the only way we're going to get back ahead of some of those guys that had kind of flipped the strategy on us is to have, you know, fresher tires by some amount. You know, it was hard to know the right number, 10 laps, 15 laps, 20 laps, whatever the right amount of, you know, freshness on our tires as compared to them. But once it kind of cycled through that way and we had the clean track, you know, the way the field had spread out by that point and we kind of cycled through, I knew that with, you know, new tires and a lot of grip in them, Kyle was going to be really fast. I thought our car was, you know, in the mix of a top 5 car. Didn't know that it was a winning car at the time, but luckily the disparity of the laps on tires is what helped us get up to them. Yeah.
Any additional questions for Cliff? We can go back to Jeff. And we'll go to Bob in the back after that.
How, when you don't really know, I mean, the way this race played out is very unpredictable because of the amount of cautions, especially in the next-gen era of road courses. I mean, this amount of cautions is like unheard of.
Yeah, it's unprecedented, really.
Yeah, so like, are you going into it saying, all right, if there's not very many cautions, we do this. If there's one in the, I mean, to have 8 in the first 2 stages, is there any contingency for that? Are you deciding that on the fly and seeing how it changes?
Really good question, and part of the reason that I like that you're asking that is because it was so unexpected for us. None of our conversations hinged on how many cautions were we going to get. It was all, you know, with a repave, do you get tire blisters? You know, do your tires go 15 laps? Do they go 30 laps? And the unknowns were more on the tire side of things, and knowing how to strategize around that, 2-stop or 3-stop really for the whole day. You know, do you short both stages and, you know, pit on the fuel number in stage 3, or do you try to hit the true fuel numbers to 2-stop the whole race? With tires being the factor of uncertainty, we never thought that cautions, you know, even a yellow here or there at a next-gen road course race, okay, but not so many cautions. So that was actually fun because it changed everything everybody had in their mindset for how to understand pace, fall off, all those things, that it just changed the factors that you had to solve for. And people could do things differently. You know, we were completely off script with the way that we called the race, but that was fun.
Go to Bob.
Bob Hockris, Fox Sports. Did you consider the strategy that some others were on? And if so, like, do you like the idea of Kyle more on the attack versus fuel mileage?
Both. Honestly, both. We considered when those guys were pitting, you know, whether it was leading up to stage 1, during stage 1, right after stage 1, at the start of stage 2, of course we had considered pitting that whole time, but you're still looking at your green flag, laps run to yellow flag laps run ratio. We just didn't have that many laps on our tires. And every time you would take off, you still had really good pace. And so at that point, you were pushing your fuel windows far enough so that under green in stage 3, you weren't going to have to take 2 cans of fuel, which we still didn't have to do. So we knew we could have the advantage of a faster stop time running deeper into stage 3 and having fresher tires, to your point about giving Kyle fresher tires. It was going to put us more in an offensive situation than a defensive situation. At the time, you didn't quite know who was going to pit when and how all that would play out. But obviously, once we kind of made our bed, you really had to stay down that path. If we would have come off of that path, we would have sacrificed any offensive advantage that we would have had later in the race, if that makes sense.
Going to go over here to the right to Adam.
Adam Carabine, RacingRefresh.com. In practice, you did have an extended practice just to get a better sense of the repave. It didn't seem like many teams went longer than 15 laps on a set of tires. Were you concerned just keeping them out there longer on a set of tires? We did see some blistering and stuff like that. Were we concerned that that was going to be an issue?
Yeah, of course. And a couple points that I'll touch on there. I think part of the reason that people didn't go as long as you would have expected in practice is because we just don't get that many opportunities with a full open practice to change springs and geometry and other things. So you take this opportunity to go learn. So a lot of us had planned changes that were outside of our weekly impound style changes. So, back to your question, without cars running that many laps in practice because we were all kind of in R&D mode to a point, you just didn't see the number of laps on tires to know, is blistering a thing, is wear a thing. You just didn't quite have the data to go off of to understand that. So that's where, back to one of Jeff's questions earlier, we all had the question mark going into the race, more on the side of tire life, tire blisters, some of the repave factors, not necessarily the caution flag factor, that ultimately we saw today.
Go to Jonathan and wrap up with Cliff.
Jonathan on 3.com, right here, Cliff. It seems that neither you or Kyle get too high during races and stuff. Like nice, calm, collected. Does it feel like you two mesh well that way, where you kind of keep each other calm, or is it just the nature of both of you?
I think we've had enough seat time together to know that, as long as we can stay together, stay connected to overcome whatever may or may not be going our way, that we can typically fight through to have a good result, have a solid finish. And, there was some intensity and some concerns just with the way the strategy played out today, and rightfully so from him, trying to understand what was going around him, who was ahead of him on what tires, who was behind him on what tires. So trying to paint that picture for him, just so that he knew, the objectives that he still had ahead of him. That's kind of what I was focused on doing. Once we understood the way we thought the strategy was going to play out, and ultimately did. So, I think our reps of doing that together, and certainly there's been times that we've failed to accomplish our mission together, and I think you learn, the healthy things that you need to learn from both sides of the coin, from, the wins and from when it doesn't go your way.
All right, Cliff, congratulations on the win today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And we're now joined by the driver of the number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, Kyle Larson, the winner of today's Toyota Save Mart 350 here at Sonoma Raceway. We will go straight to questions for Kyle. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless microphone to you. We'll start here with Jeff and then work up to the front.
I know you have to trust them strategy-wise, but you came out 22nd, so I'm sure you're like, oh, great, now I got to, it's going to be hard to get through here.
Yeah.
I mean, what was your mentality at that point, knowing that you have so far to go?
Yeah, they have a way better understanding of strategy than I do. So yeah, when I guess we flipped the second stage, and then I was like, I'm like, man, we're gonna be 22nd here. There wasn't as many people that had pitted as I thought might. It's like, gosh, I just don't know if I'm gonna have time to. The distance that I'm going to have to the leaders, I just wouldn't know if I would ever have time to get there. And then, I'm just out there clicking laps away. I felt like those guys pitted really early into that run. And so then I ran out in the lead, it felt like, for a long time. And then, I wasn't sure if people were on like a 3-stop strategy. So like when I made my final pit stop and came out behind the guys that had pitted, it seemed like a lot earlier than me. I was like, okay, I mean, it's gonna be pretty easy. I beat Ross. Ross I didn't let him pass me. Like all these people are probably gonna have to pit off in front of me again. And then I was asking like, hey, am I racing these guys or what? And they're like, yeah, you're racing all of them. I'm like, oh my God, I'm still like 10th. So I just I knew I was gonna be faster for 8-10 laps, but I just didn't know like once the tires came up to temp if they would equal out at some point because there were still 20 something laps left. So it did. It definitely got closer to equaling out, but I still just had enough. Once I got to third and slowly was gaining on them and timed it out, right to when Martin, got racing with him that I was kind of right there to capitalize.
We're going to go 2 here in the front and the left and the right, and then we'll go back to Adam and Cameron.
Right behind you.
Hey Kyle, Keenan O'Doherty, Press Democrat. Congratulations. Second time you've won here, kind of like a home track for you, Northern California native. Does it feel better the second time? I know you've only had a couple minutes to really digest it, but does it feel any different than the first time? Feel a little bit better?
No, I mean, it feels similar, I guess. I remember it being kind of a fairly similar, final stage, the way that played out. I remember that year we didn't flip the stages, so we, won both stages and then had to restart, like 20-something, and, just drove our way to the lead there. And there was other cautions and stuff, but we had a great car again that day. It was the other layout, so we had to use the carousel and stuff. But, it just feels good to get a win in the Cup Series. But, with it being at home, feels even more special, So, get to see friends and all that, this week. And really, I think all of us just enjoy coming out here because it's beautiful and it's kind of a vacation. So it's always a cherry on top when you can finish the weekend off with a win.
Right, Kyle, Kevin Koblax of Sacramento. Hey, you had a great race going down to the turns in 11 down there. It seemed like you were catching them guys at least a second every time trying to catch that pack. And then when you got to Kyle Busch, was there any concern there at all when you were trying to pass him?
I mean, I had like thoughts of, well, I guess we'll see where we stand with each other as I was getting closer to him. But, he always races with a lot of respect. So I was very, I was surprised. He kind of just let me go and, didn't get raced with me. But he's very respectful out there, and he's very smart about the way he manages his races. I think probably going through his mind is like, I'm obviously on fresher tires. If I race him for, a lap, I piss my tire. This is, me thinking what he's thinking. Like, he's probably thinking, I pissed my tires off for a lap, and then now was it really worth it, racing him? So, he let me go as soon as I got to him, and, it sounded like he got spun on the last lap, which is unfortunate. But, was very thankful for that because, I just didn't need to waste any time, and he allowed me to just get by and not really slow down. So I was very happy and thankful for that.
We're going to go to Adam and then Cameron and then Jenna.
Adam Carabine, RacingRefresh.com. From an enjoyment standpoint for you in a race like this, do you prefer something like this where you kind of have to pass your way up to the front and win, or would you prefer something where you start on the pole and stay there the entire race?
I just prefer winning. So however you have to do that, whatever. But, I like being on offense, and our strategy was very offense-driven today. So, that made it fun, because you were the one passing people rather than just trying to fight and hold off and, push your brake zones so you can just hold people off and all that. So I felt like being on offense, I was just able to make less mistakes throughout the day. And, I think people recognized that we were on offense too, so they didn't really race me too hard. My car was just really good in the brake zones because I was on fresher tires. So, that part of it's fun. But, when you can win, no matter how you win, it's pretty fun.
Go to Cameron, Jenna, and Bob.
Cameron Richardson, NASCAR.com. Kyle, what about your racecraft just helps you get through the field better than some of the guys that were on the same strategy as you? Because if you look at the results, guys who were on the same strategy, like Blaney, Reddick, Bowman, Suarez, they weren't really able to make their way through the field. Just, what separates your race car from theirs? Like, why was it easier for you than them?
Well, ultimately we weren't. I think we didn't end up being on the exact same strategies, and we were to a point, and then at least judging off of Ross, who in my mind I was racing for the win at the time, or at least the first person. We both kind of got through traffic really well, and then it finally got to where it was thinned out, and people started ducking off the pit, and then I lost him in my mirror. So I'm like, okay, he pitted. So I didn't know how the strategy was going to work out. So I think they just made a hiccup on strategy. I think Ross did, and it sounded like, talking to Cliff, Reddick's team pitted and maybe did fuel only. So, I think Chase and myself, I'm guessing we're the only two that really were on the winning strategy. And, it just allowed us to be on offense there, that last, second half of the final stage. So, yeah, we weren't really on the same strategy as everybody else. At least at one point we were, and then they got off of it.
Go ahead, Jenna.
Jenna Fryer, AP. Kyle, you said how you had 2 days off this week, the first 2 days off in forever. Back-to-back NASCAR weeks, you're kind of getting back into the rhythm of what your life really is like, and now a win. Are you feeling like you're back in your norm, or do you have like 87,000 sprint car races
I'm racing
coming?
on Tuesday, so that is norm.
No, but do you feel like you're getting back into a much more normal Kyle Larson pace?
Yeah, I guess so. But my life stays so hectic that I never really felt like I got off of a normal week for myself. Indy was actually not normal because it was more relaxing than anything. You're just sitting there and you're at the same location every day. People thought that I'm flying back and forth to Charlotte and like wearing myself out, but it was like I got more sleep there than I would at home. So no, but I guess if anything, it gets a little bit more hectic now that I'm just NASCAR racing and just sprint car racing. So yeah, I'll do more back and forth throughout the weeks and all that, but that does feel normal for me. So yeah, it was really, really nice for me to get to come here this week and get to just do nothing for one day and then just go be a normal, tourist on Thursday. It was just a very relaxing week. And a lot of the drivers, I think, kind of do that. We all stay at the Carneros Inn there and, after qualifying, like right after qualifying, we all hurried back to the hotel and, I thought I was fast, but Bubba and Ryan, Blaney, they were all already in the hot tub by the time, I got there. So, Denny, was up there. So it's, no, I didn't. I soaked up the last little bit of sun, but no, it's just we all, I think, just enjoy coming out here and decompressing a little bit.
Where do you race Tuesday?
Eagle, Nebraska. It's like 55,000 win.
Go in the back to Bob, and then up front to Steven, and then Jonathan.
Bob Hockris, Fox Sports. You gained a lot of points on Denny today since he engine blew. Put more distance between you and Truex and a little bit over Elliott for the regular season championship. What could you have thought that after skipping Charlotte that you would be back in this position atop the standings, both regular season and having the most playoff points?
Maybe not so quickly, but yeah, for sure I thought we would still have a great shot to win the regular season title, which there's still a lot of racing left to be had. I could easily have a couple DNFs here coming up, but no, I knew after Charlotte and after seeing how the points shook out, I wasn't out of it. So yeah, their misfortune today really helps, but we still just have to stay executing and trying to get great stage points. Get race wins, obviously, stage wins, all that. But, yeah, just we've done a great job executing, so just got to keep that up.
Can I follow up on that?
Bob has a follow-up quickly.
Is it weird at all to go from start of week, you don't know if you're in the playoffs, to now being, kind of in position to
Are we still talking waivers?
A little bit, just because the dynamic seems interesting to me that you don't know if you're going to be in the playoffs to the point that
Literally, my mind never wavered. It was always kind of focused on executing and winning the regular season points. Whether that be on the owner's side or whatever. It didn't really. My mindset has not changed at all. So, just I race to win every single race. So, I haven't really thought any differently since missing Charlotte.
Go up front to Stephen.
Steven Sum, Frontrush.com. Kyle, with 8 cautions in the first half of the race, was it driving in the final stage? Was it kind of surprising that the entire thing went green to the end after how chaotic it was to start?
Yeah, a bit for sure. But it was more surprising to me that we were having so many cautions early. I was just like, what the heck? Like, I just wanted to race. We'd go like one lap and they're like, oh, there's a big wreck behind you. And I'm like, God dang. It just gets annoying having to coast around and save fuel under cautions and clutch it and refire and all that. So I was just wanting to go racing. So, but then, then once the race was playing out and, I felt like we were in a good position for strategy, I'm like praying there would be no cautions. So, it worked out. But, I'm sure all of us were getting a little bit annoyed and frustrated with all those cautions. And I just kind of had to remind myself, like, just stay focused, stay calm, don't get over anxious on one of these restarts and give it away.
With the new surface, was there kind of like a sense of like everyone was still trying to figure out what to do, and that's why it went clean to the end? And also, what did you think about driving on the surface as well?
Yeah, I as far as the cautions went, I'm not sure what was causing them. Haven't seen any replays yet, but so I don't know if the surface had anything to do with that. As far as like being extra aggressive because there's more grip. And then, for me in the surface, I'm very bad at, wore out surfaces on road courses. So I was happy when I heard they were repaving Sonoma because I knew it would kind of lend itself to me, somebody who's not easy on tires. So, it did, and I think same thing like Watkins Glen. Once they repaved that place, got much better. So keep repaving road courses.
Going back to Jonathan, we have a question over on the left too.
Hey, Kyle. Jonathan Howard with On3.com. I know that you say you don't pay attention to strategy a whole lot, and you get in the car and drive it. But how nice is it to have, you're a driver that is that way. How nice is it to have Cliff Daniels on the box where you can trust what he's telling you to do, and when he tells you to do things that it's the right thing for you to do.
Well, that's all you really can do when you're behind the wheel is just trust that they've got it figured out. And then, as long as you keep the car on the racetrack, don't get passed by people, usually whatever strategy I feel like you're on is going to typically work out okay. You may not win, but you're still going to finish good. So, I'm out there trying to figure it all out and whatnot. I had an idea of the strategy before the race started, and then we had those, whatever it was, 8 cautions, and then I'm like, okay, in my mind, I'm like, well, is this a one-stop race now, or is this 2-stop, or what? And then are people still on 3-stop? Because it was going to be between a 2 and a 3-stop race. So then I'm out there making laps. I'm just trying to figure it out, and they spent about a lap on the radio explaining the situation to me, and it just it helped. I like to have like a picture of what's going on. What are people doing around me, and it helps. That helps me kind of execute my race.
Hi, Kyle. Bill Sessa from the Napa Valley Register. Your foundation has a fundraiser going on this weekend. First of all, do you have any update? And do you think winning today will draw more attention to it?
I just got out of the car like an hour ago, so I think visors are probably just coming off people's helmets. So I have no update for you. But no, I am either way. I'm happy to have support from the competitors, and hopefully we can raise a lot of money. And who doesn't want to own a race one visor from Kyle Larson? So hopefully it goes for a lot. Jenna, you should bid. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I've heard you make a lot of money, so big IndyCar girl. I'm glad to see you here. I know you like hearing that.
Any final questions for Kyle? Couple follows to the front.
And Kyle, this is also your 20th win since joining Hendrick at the start of 2021. 3.5 years, 20 wins, championship, points leader now. Just, I guess, what can you say just about how you, Cliff, and everyone on Hendrick have just, just really gone out and just, taken over a lot of the competition?
Yeah, it's just that's a great milestone. To get 20 wins in really a short period of time is special to me. So, wish I could have been here a long time ago. But no, it's just a phenomenal organization. I mean, it's the best in the business, and the timing also couldn't be any better. I feel like I've gotten to Hendrick, when they're really at peak or back to what peak used to be. So, yeah, and then being with Cliff Daniels and the whole 5 team, they are also great at what they do. So, just a lucky person, and hopefully you'll get 20 more wins in a short amount of time.
All right, we have time for a couple more. We'll go to Jeff and then wrap up with Adam.
I noticed that Friday and Saturday, Knoxville's in action. Do you think you might do a double duty with Iowa being so close?
I'd like to. For sure. Friday is tight on schedule. I don't think we're done practicing at Iowa Speedway till like 5:30. So, I'm guessing hot laps are at 6:30. So tight window, but so I plan on it. We'll see how Tuesday goes. I've tore up a lot of equipment so far, so if I continue that, maybe we won't have enough stuff left. But that's my hope. I would love to get more laps there at Knoxville. I don't typically ever get to race there before the Nationals, and it would be good to get more laps there.
We'll wrap up with Adam.
Yeah, just to follow up about driving on the new surface. What was the physical toll like on you today? Some other drivers were mentioning it was pretty rough out there, just driving like qualifying laps basically the entire race.
I don't know. It didn't feel much different as far as physicality to me. Every road course you go is pretty physical. At the end I'm pushing and I'm getting, tight and tensed up. I noticed like my lower back, but that would be typical for Sonoma, I feel like, in the past. So, it didn't feel much different to me.
All right, Kyle. Well, congratulations on the win. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Oh, is he? Did Denny make himself the top seed? I don't know. I haven't paid attention to the bracket. Did you do one?